The Prime Minister has just hosted, together with Premier Doug Ford, a meeting of the First Ministers across Canada. Minister LeBlanc and I joined him, and we were also joined by Deputy Commissioner of the RCMP, Mark Flynn, who's with us here. It was a really good, really important meeting. We talked about the Canada-US relationship, and our central agreement on which everyone was agreed really from the outset was that this is a time when we need to play for Team Canada. We need to work in a united and coordinated way. We agreed that we need to be smart, strong, and united in meeting this challenge. We spoke principally about the border and the Canada-US trade relationship. When it came to the economic relationship, we talked about the fact that trade between Canada and the United States is balanced and mutually beneficial, that Canada is the largest market for the United States by far, larger than China, Japan, the UK, and France combined. Many premiers talked about how important their provinces are for US exporters. And we also talked about how the United States depends on us for many essential products. In particular, we spoke about energy. We talked about how the US relies on Canadian oil, Canadian electricity, Canadian critical minerals and metals. Premiers referred to how that dependency on Canadian energy is particularly important today at a time when AI is such an important force for the economy of the future, and AI is so power hungry. We also spoke about how Canada and the United States are aligned when it comes to China and China's unfair trade practices, China's intentional policy of overcapacity. We spoke a lot about the border. Minister LeBlanc will have more to say about that, but our shared view was that, of course, the United States has the absolute right to control who enters the United States, just as Canada has the absolute right to control who enters Canada. We agreed that illegal drugs, especially opioids, are a scourge for both of our countries, and that we need to continue to work hard to ensure our border is safe and secure, and to really crack down on illegal drugs. Alors, on a eu une excellente conversation avec le Premier ministre, organisé une excellente conversation avec les premiers ministres des provinces and territories.
And they were there
Aussi avec
also
des fonctionnaires
with public officials and with the RCMP. We discussed
les relations entre le Canada et les
the
États-Unis.
relations between Canada and the United States, and we agree that it's necessary for us we will be united to give our efforts between the economy of the two countries, so that's being balanced. It's a win-win situation for both countries. And we talk of the boundaries. And for Canada, it's very important to have a frontier secured, controlled by us, but also it's also the same for American neighbors. And we'll continue to work to make sure that we keep this. Mr. LeBlanc that was there also.
Chrystia, je vais pas embarquer là-dessus. Comme la dernière fois, j'avais l'air d'un géant.
I don't want to go on this. I look like a giant. Thank you, Chrystia. Thank you to the Sub-Commissioner of Mark Flynn, the federal police that is with her tonight. Chrystia said it. It was a discussion. She addressed the economical discussions with the premiers and of the provinces and territories. We also talked of the importance to keep securizing the boundaries between Canada and the United States, to manage
l'immigration
immigration,
afin qu'on ne devienne pas
so we
une
don't
porte
become
d'entrée pour ceux et celles qui
an
cherchent
entry
finalement
door for
à
those
se rendre aux
that
États-Unis.
want to go to the United
Moi,
States.
j'ai rappelé au Premier
I
ministre les mesures
reminded
que
to the
Mark Miller, mon
premiers
collègue, a pris
what my
afin de resserrer,
measures
par
that my
exemple, les
colleague Mark
visas
Miller took
pour les
to have
ressortissants
some
mexicains.
visas for
On a
the
fait la même
Mexican
chose avec les avions en provenance de
with
l'Inde.
the
Mark Miller a clairement dit, et j'ai
planes that
répété ça
came
au
from
Premier ministre,
India, and I
que nous
remember
sommes prêts
that
à
the
faire
Prime Minister,
à prendre
we are
d'autres
willing
mesures,
to take
à
other measures
agir davantage afin
to
de
act
s'assurer
more, to make
que les
sure
personnes qui viennent au Canada
the
ne
people that
viennent
come
pas
in
ici
Canada
sur des prétextes
don't come here
fraudulents pour se
on
rendre aux
fraudulent
États-Unis.
pretexts.
Nous avons discuté
We've
l'importance
discussed
de
of the
combattre,
importance
comme
to
Mme
fight,
Freeland a dit,
like
les
Mrs.
opioïdes
Freeland
et
said,
en
the
particulier
opioids,
le
in
fentanyl.
particular fentanyl.
Le sous-commissaire Flynn qui est
And
avec
the
nous
subcommissionary
m'a rappelé
Flynn
plus
that's
tôt
with us
aujourd'hui
reminded me
les
that
mesures que la police
the
fédérale
measures that the
dans
federal
plusieurs
police
provinces,
in many
les mesures que
provinces
nous avons prises
that we
précisément
took
pour démanteler
precisely
le crime
to
organisé, les gangs
dismantle
criminels
organized
qui
crime
fabriquent le
and
fentanyl,
criminal
mais il faut
gangs that
encore
are
agir
making
davantage
fentanyl.
avec nos partenaires
But we have to
américains.
act more
Le
with
président
our
Trump a
American partners.
identifié
President Trump identified
les préoccupations quant
the
au fentanyl.
worries as far as
Nous
fentanyl.
partageons
We
entièrement
share
sa
totally
préoccupation. C'est dans
his
l'intérêt des
worry.
Canadiens.
It's in the
Nous
interest of
travaillons
Canadians.
davantage avec,
And
par
we're
exemple, la
working
Chine
more and more
pour
with
arrêter
China
les produits
to
chimiques qui
stop
viennent au
those
Canada ou
chemical
aux
products that
États-Unis.
are coming
Alors,
to the
c'est
United
un
States and
dialogue
Canada.
continuel avec
So
nos
it's a
partenaires américains.
continuous
Mais j'ai beaucoup
dialogue
apprécié
that we have,
l'appui
but I
des premiers
appreciate it
ministres
that
pour
the
des
Premier's
investissements
support
davantage
for
dans les
investing
services
more
frontaliers du Canada,
in the
dans la
boundary
GRC.
services in
Et
Canada,
Mme Freeland et
in
moi,
the
on va
USA,
travailler dans ce sens-là,
and Mrs. Freeland
très
and me
activement.
will
It was
be
a good
working on that.
conversation focused to a considerable extent on border security. We spoke to premiers about the security currently in place at the Canadian border. We believe that there is a circumstance where we can make additional investments to reassure Canadians that all of the measures necessary are in place and will continue to be in place. We have a lot of faith in the work done by Border Services officers, by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. We appreciate the work of provincial police forces. The Prime Minister spoke to premiers about the important work of collaborating with law enforcement agencies. The Ontario Provincial Police, Sûreté de Québec are valuable partners for the RCMP, and work with them in ensuring that all of the measures are in place. And finally, we spoke about additional measures, additional investments that we can make in supporting the work of the RCMP, of Canadian Border Services Agency. Premiers spoke about their desire to collaborate with us on issues around border security, including some of the measures taken by Mark Miller on immigration, on tightening visa requirements for persons coming from Mexico, dealing with increasingly a number of cases involving fraudulent pretexts where people get a visa to come to Canada, but ultimately are trying to enter the United States. We'll continue to tighten the screws on that process to make sure that we continue to have an immigration system and borders that in fact support the integrity and security that Canadians and Americans work on every day and have for decades. So it was a positive conversation, and we're going to continue to ensure that we work with premiers in the coming weeks to set a Team Canada approach in terms of border security, national security, and ensuring that the immigration system is orderly. Merci beaucoup.